Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you're new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, hey, welcome back. That's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free additional greetings at the start of these videos. Today we're going to dive into my Summoner Primer for Endwalker. If you guys have been following this job at all, note that it's basically a brand new job with the latest expansion. So we've got a lot to dive into, but because this is also a controller guide, I want to dive into first how you get started setting up with a controller in Endwalker, just in case this is a video that maybe you're discovering on the channel. And if you are, welcome. My name is Brian. I like covering MMORPGs. I love video games, and yeah, welcome. We're glad you're checking us out. I'm going to have a whole playlist for Endwalker controller guides if you need more focused content after this. If you're just got questions about Reaper, Sage, and more, check out the focused playlist. It's going to be on the main channel. I'll also try to include it in the cards on this video if I'm not too distracted by live streaming and playing this amazing game. Anyway, so first things first, because I think it's important that you guys have a good idea of how you actually get started using the controller. Under your character config menu in system, you can go in character config. If you are in keyboard and mouse mode, you just want to toggle over to gamepad mode. In fact, your controller actually works in both, same thing as your keyboard works in both, but you actually get two separate UI layouts. Now from here, I want to focus you over into the filters tab. I focus in on when my weapon is drawn only on enemies, and when my weapon is sheathed on pretty much anything else with the exception of party members. I use up and down on the D-pad to target party members, and I use left and right to target anything else. If you ever are just curious about general targeting, I have an updated, like a deep dive guide, and I'll probably be putting out another one. You can always just press A and it's going to focus in on the nearest target. In fact, if you're ever around a huge helping of people, you can always just press A and it's going to focus in on the nearest NPC. Targeting is obviously working with left and right on the D-pad. You can see I'm selecting multiple things. This is how the filter works. I pull out my weapon, and now I'm only selecting that what is the targetable, which is these dummies, and apparently a dummy or something over there as well. So that is a way that you can help and have easy targeting acquisition. One of the things that I use is also when I'm holding down the left trigger or the right trigger, I can also hold down and press either left bumper or right bumper, L1 or L2, to easily toggle between my different targets that are selectable as well. So just note that that is a very handy feature if you're targeting and you need to easily switch between what's out there. Left bumper, right bumper while holding down either the triggers ends up being a very nice thing. So that's a little bit about targeting and filtering. I'm going to go into hotbar settings, and we're going to spend more time on the cross and the custom, but just kind of showing you guys a couple different options. I can just say display hotbar numbers. I turn that off. Hide unassigned slots. If I do that, you see a lot of little gray spots popping up. So you can actually set floating hotbars as well. And then from the sharing perspective, pretty much 1 through 5 on everything is not shared, and then everything else after that is shared across the board. Under cross hotbar, you can turn on hotbar help. This will have you display like the icons and the names of the skills, so you can see here that pops up. If you want a little bit of a cleaner experience as you learn more about the skills that you've set, you now don't have to sit here and worry about that. I work in hold mode. I have also used the WHXB, the W cross hotbar. That's by double tapping the right trigger and left trigger. You can see those pop up right there. I also use the expanded, which is left trigger and right trigger, and we'll get more into those settings. If you struggle with double tapping, you can always adjust your input timer here, and you can also set if you want to position the WHXB separately, you can select that option there. Now for my expanded cross hotbar, I use 2 left and 2 right, and that's just holding down left trigger and right trigger, so you can set those skills, and we'll show you guys how in a second. And then for the WHXB, I use 3 left and 3 right. Commonly, let me just pull up my actions and traits. Let's say I want to set an action. I think a good action would be limit break. You should make sure you have limit break. You cannot drag and drop limit break onto this. And if you're on controller and you don't have access to a keyboard and mouse, you can always just press down on the left bumper and then the right R3 as a click. And now all of a sudden your right stick becomes a mouse, your left trigger becomes left click, and your right trigger becomes right click. Pressing left bumper and down on the right stick will return you back into camera control mode, etc. Anyway, so how do you get actions set to the WHXB? You actually have to go to the linked hotbar. So if I wanted to set a limit break over here to kind of mirror it over there, now that's how you do it, and you see how it's linked. To get to your different hotbars, you can hold down RB and you can press A, B, X, Y, up, down, left, or right to cycle between the 8 different sets that you have available for your hotbars. All right. I want to show also one thing real quick from a user macro perspective, because this is a very handy one. Here in the user macros, I'll drag this a little bit more into the camera view, and we'll make it a little bit bigger for anybody who wants to read it. I've got M arrow off, flying mount roulette, sprint, and then macro icon. I have set as a R3 click the ability to go ahead and have myself run. I think this is done through controller, button configuration, and then here on the R3 I have execute macro number 99. That is how that is set, and that means whatever is in my user macro 99 spot, which was this one, is now the basically I'm firing a macro by clicking down on the right stick. So I can summon out a mount. I got my whale mount right there, and I can click it again to dismount. And if I want to sprint, like if you're in a dungeon, it will auto sprint because you can't mount up. If you can't mount, it will automatically fail through and sprint. But if you're out in the mountain, you're like, oh, I do want to sprint, you can always just jump and then click on the stick to sprint. So that's going to give you that option as well. So if you feel like you don't want to have to worry about that, you can always set a sprint on your hotbars, but I'll let that choice be up to you. So, all right. Character config, we talked about custom here. You can set these to any hotbars that you want, and that's just really kind of going to be a personal preference. I've been using 2 left and 2 right to actually expand out on my features as a part of my rotations. And the big reason is that if you think about it, if you think about your controller, A, B, X, and Y work really well if you want to be able to move the left stick and still use a skill. And then you can still use up and down, left and right, but it's going to require a little bit more movement, hand repositioning to get that to work properly. So that's kind of where I'm thinking, is that anything that I definitely want as a priority, either with an instant cast or I want to be able to use on the move, I want on that A, B, X, Y, and then anything else that I need to use, but not necessarily as frequently, I want on the up, down, left, and right buttons accordingly. And so then the other mindset that I have here is that single target is right now currently being focused to the right, and AoE target basically being focused to the left. Some skills are both single target and AoE, but that's just kind of the position that I've got currently with the summoner. And then finally, if you guys haven't seen, I have enabled custom hotbar when my weapon is sheathed versus when it is drawn. So with my weapon put away, if I just tap right bumper, I can actually tab between various different ones. It looks like in this case, summoner is going to just go to my pet hotbar. You can have that turned off if you want, but again, cycling through. And then if my weapon is out, in this case, it's just going to go pet hotbar because I'm a summoner. But essentially, it's going to keep you from necessarily accidentally bumping that R1 button and getting yourself lost in a sea of menus and just trying to find your way back. All right, let's talk a little bit about rotation and skill placement and kind of the reasoning behind it. Let me just kind of get in close for a dramatic view. Yes, perfect. All right, so first and foremost, I've got Ruin listed right here. If we pull up our actions and traits, you can see here, we've got a lot of different changes with the spells. Ruin's going to upgrade to Ruin 2, and Ruin 2 will upgrade into Ruin 3. So setting Ruin is just essentially whatever your highest level Ruin spell is. Ruin 2 no longer is an insta-cast spell. It's no longer different. The only Ruin spell that is different in this case is Ruin 4, and then that is actually procced off of Energy Drain. So when you use Energy Drain, you're going to get 2 stacks. You're also going to have the ability to use Fester. There's no more dots with Summoner anymore. So at the end of the day, this is just additional weaving damage that you have access to. So Ruin 3, Ruin 2, basically here on the right hand side. Ruin 3 does have a little bit of a cast time, but that's ultimately okay. There's a lot of movement with Summoner. Then I've got Gem's Shine listed right here, and this is going to be basically whenever I get attuned to my various different pets. Then I have Summon Bahamut, and from setting these skills, if I look at Aether Charge right here and I put it in, you can see here this automatically upgrades. So Summon Bahamut is your Aether Charge. That does turn into Dreadworm Chance. That becomes Bahamut, and then it becomes its own thing. So don't worry ultimately too much about any of that. Continuing back into it, I have Enkindle Bahamut, which also upgrades and changes based off of the summon that I have out, whether it's Bahamut or Phoenix. And then Death Flare, which is essentially reacting to what I've got summoned. It's got a little bit longer of a cooldown, especially as a part of the rotations. You'll notice the Bahamut and all the different summons, your Phoenix, have a smaller duration, but they have quite more of an impact for your skill. So before it used to be 650, now it's 1300. You get to basically fire this off in a big burst window, and it's a much faster overall rotation. On the left hand side, Try Disaster, Precious Brilliance, Ruin 4, and Pain Flare. So you can see here a very mirroring to this. Pain Flare, Fester, basically same thing, single target AoE. Try Disaster, your AoE targeting. Precious Brilliance is your upgrade or your AoE version of Gem Shine. And then Ruin 4, which is an AoE regardless, but because it tricks off of this, we can actually rearrange that because I just recently made that change. Astral Flow, Energy Siphon, Bahamut, and Enkindle, because essentially whether I'm doing AoEs as a part of those pools or single targets, essentially your focus and your priorities really aren't going to change that much. Your rotation gets more into what pets and what order that you want to summon. So that actually takes us into my hotbar 2. Ifrit, Titan, Garuda, which is essentially the evolution of Ruby, Topaz, and Emerald. Essentially your rotation and everything kind of builds off of earlier how it works now. So it just evolves, so do your summons and so do your pets. Your Carbuncle doesn't attack, so you do have a couple things like Searing Light, which is really great at level 66. Great damage boost, so don't sleep on that at all. Also, Radiant Edges is going to protect yourself and keep you basically more survivable, so just make sure you don't sleep on that, especially when you know damage is coming. But should you use Ifrit before? Should you use Garuda? Should you use Titan? Ultimately, we'll dive more into maybe there might be a min-maxing preferred order, and just stay tuned to the channel as we dive deeper into the jobs themselves. But as you're getting started, honestly, I would say if you know you don't need to move for a little bit, you get 2 stacks of Ifrit. He's going to hit the hardest, so just use him first, and then essentially you have Titan and Garuda, who you'll have movement ability, so you'll be able to move around. So I find myself when I'm playing the content, if I know I don't have to move for a second, I prioritize Ifrit first so I can have him hit. Because he's got a cast time on his on my abilities, but then Titan and Garuda do not. Garuda hits for the weakest, Titan a little bit stronger than that from what I've seen. Not necessarily on their initial impact, but it is what it is when it comes down to how they augment your skills. And then I've got Addle, Lucid Dreaming, Resurrection, Swift Cast, because you can still raise people up from the grave. And yeah, that's how you're gonna have to go with that. Looks like I'm gonna go ahead and set Searing Light here as well, so I kind of have a very mirrored approach to how I've got my hotbars. Those might change as time goes on, so just note that's going to be how it is. With the summoner, if I bring in like the skills, you'll see a lot of the facts that a lot of their abilities are upgrading abilities from the different different skills and based off the different pets that I have. So if I just kind of start into a rotation, doing Bahamut is going to be great because it's going to increase my ability, it's going to increase my damage, and it's going to start the counter getting me into my summons rotation. So I'm going to go and open up with him, and you can see here now I can also use my Dreadworm Trance. I have my Try Disaster and Death Flare. There's no penalty that you get for using Death Flare, so just make sure you get those popped off as soon as possible. You can see here I got a little cast timer through and 3, and that's okay. But now you'll notice Ifrit, Titan, and Garuda are all kind of highlighted, ready to do their thing. So I'm going to bring out Garuda, and you can see here I can go ahead and move and attack with Garuda's ability. It's really nice. You get 4 charges of that, and then you need to pick out a new summon. If I go with Ifrit, I can do Ruby Right. Got that cast time, bigger of a hit, but then it is done. So I can go back to a Ruin 3 spam in this case while I wait for Phoenix to come off cooldown. Bring out Titan. He's got 4 charges as well. He does his big hit. And now Phoenix is ready. I can bring Phoenix out, and you can see how my skills evolve. And I can just jump right into that. I can fire off Revelation and continue to use my abilities as necessary. Now, you cannot use Searing Light if any of your summons are out, but as long as Carby is out, you can fire that off and get an increased damage boost, so you want to time that. Now with Phoenix, I get an instant recharge of my summons, so the summoner is essentially always summoning their pets, their abilities, their summons, and it feels way more natural, especially as a summoner, to play around with all of it. Using my 4 charges and going into my last summon, in which that around this time Bahamut will be right back up and ready, and I'm able to jump back into it as well. I can fire a little protection on myself, kind of do a real big combo there, weave in some festers while I'm casting. I kind of sit on Ruin 4 for just a little bit personally, because once I'm out, Ruin 4 is still an insta-cast. You don't want to waste it, but it's still what it is. All right, I'm going to reset my targeting dumbing, and there you go. Now, if you guys have any questions, if you have any thoughts that you have, especially as it relates to your rotation and how the game plays and functions with you in control, sound off below. Obviously, this is just, the goal of this is to give you some ideas so you can kind of take it and make it your own. And hopefully this has been a help. If it has, that like button helps these videos out dramatically. Subscribing to the channel and checking out other videos is also a great way of seeing what else that I've got posted. I like, again, talking about video games and sharing my love with them with you guys. So hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But like I said, this has been Ginger Prime. My name's Brian. I hope you have a great one, and I hope to see you next time. But until then, take care.
Yes, Brian, teach me how to heal on the controller. Taking time to learn, it feels awkward. I'm using your layout for buttons, so I'm looking forward to that video. Hey, he's back. Glad you're feeling better. Can't wait for your Sage controller guide in the future. That's right, baby.
That's right, baby.